Welcome back to our Camel Connection podcast. In today's episode, we are talking about the 3 signs to know that a camel is healthy. So we all know how important it is to keep our animals healthy. Dr. Google is most people's favorite go-to for diagnoses and cures. We're all guilty of it. But there's an underlying problem with Googling camel information because let's face the hard facts here. Information found online can be extremely contradictive. It can be in technical language and that you can barely understand, and sometimes it's even in foreign languages, especially if it's camel related. So another hard fact is that most vets are not specialized with camels, so they mostly guess diagnosis and treat the camel based on their experience and knowledge with other animals. Just a side note here, veterinarians do a great job and we're not knocking veterinarians here. They are wonderful. So it's a painful truth that, you buy a camel that usually you've been saving up for a long time, especially if you're in the US, and all is wonderful, but you can't seem to get any straight answers from anyone on what to feed your camel to stay healthy or how to tell if a camel's healthy. It's a really confusing world out there when it comes to that. So a lot of camels get the trial and error treatment to health. So what I'm talking about is that we all do this to ourselves, like we eat that donut and think to ourselves later, we're going to regret this. So, it's not just that we're doing it to the animals, it's also we're doing it to ourselves. And sometimes, unfortunately, that's how we learn. So, but, you get the point. So the more unfortunate thing about camels is that they are less common animal compared to compared to cows, horses, dogs, and cats, and things like that. Therefore, camels actually don't get those wonderful studies done on them like the more common household pets or animals do. There are camel studies out there, but just not as many as we need. So without us being veterinarians or scientists specializing in camels and only camels, what can we offer you? Well, to be upfront, common sense. Okay, maybe it's not all that simple, but the idea is simple. Given where a camel originates from, the desert environments for both dromedary and the Bactrian camels, what would they eat? Or as we like to say, WWTE. And how can we as camel owners replicate that as much as possible? So one thing you might not know about me personally is I tend to be a real nerd about food and health. Some people say command-alike, but I wouldn't listen to them. In all our camels' diets, I replicate everything as best as I can from their originated desert environment. I really nerd over it. This stuff keeps me up at night, truly. I am lucky enough to see camels in their natural environment here in Australia. When we go out on camel treks and expeditions, I'm out there with the camels while they feed, and I'm doing my field studies, if you like. So, I'm seeing what they eat, why they like to eat it, why one day they'll eat a load of something and the next day not even look at it. And I see how often they drink in the winter compared to the summer. It's all so interesting and incredibly insightful, and I guess I can share that with you today. So to narrow it down and know that not everyone lives out in the desert or really wants to, we've narrowed it down to some really key ingredients, you could call it, for a camel to maintain good health. Now, full disclosure here, this does not mean that we haven't had illnesses happen to any of our camels. We are not experts in the field, and I'm sure even the experts struggle sometimes. They're animals, they can't talk, so it happens. We've had camels die from unknown and known causes. It happens. It's devastating, but it's a cycle of life. And with camels, I've noticed it really has a lot to do with genetics too. So with all that said, let's have a look at a prevention before the cure type clues to know if your camel is healthy. So 3 signs that your camel is healthy. Number 1, it's all in the humps. As you may know, that a camel stores pure fat in its hump, not water. The fat, in short, can be used for H2O needs or nutritional feed needs. Camels are desert creatures, so this makes complete sense that they store food and water for more trying times. Also, the hump is the last resort to their survival. So a camel can actually starve and dehydrate if all their stores have been used up. To us camel owners, our job is to keep the humps healthy but not overweight. Dun, 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 which is a biggie. So how to know if your camel is overweight? If you cannot clearly see and feel where the hump finishes and ends on the side of the camel, like there should be a dip where you can feel the hump ends, then they're most likely overweight. So most pet and Australian wild camels are overweight, some of ours included. Yep, guilty. Like any species that get overweight, it will eventually put strain on vital organs. Everybody knows that. So without a hump, a camel is not a camel, right? Technically, that's not scientifically true, but it does speak for a camel on an unhealthy scale. So when a hump reserves are starting to diminish, like floppy humps in a Bactrian camel or like little to no hump in a dromedary camel, the camel will start to feel the strain on their body and become more susceptible to illnesses and parasites. Anyone who has had a camel underweight will tell you how damn hard it is trying to get weight back on the camel. It's a real challenge. So our job as camel owners is to maintain the hump reserves with good nutritional feed and important and necessary minerals. So number 2, it's the way the camel looks. It's its skin condition. Sounds like a makeup ad, but it's not. So the skin is a great indicator on what's going on inside the camel's body. Things like unexplained lesions, missing hair, obviously not during shedding times, fungi and wart-like growths are a camel owner's guide to assessing where the camel's health is at. So often these things can be overlooked, but the signs are always there. Personally, in our experience, 9 times out of 10, any camel's skin condition is actually a mineral deficiency. Well, it's a sign of a mineral deficiency. Again, this makes complete sense because their natural diet in the wild consists of so many different minerals they gain from plants, trees, shrubs, and even eating bark off trees. So, like once while we were out on camel trek, we witnessed a camel pick up a marrow bone off the desert floor and eat it in full, like literally just massive crunch and just chewed it down. We thought surely a tooth is broke, but no, the camel just needed the important minerals within that marrow bone, and I certainly didn't want my hand or head anywhere near that jaw. Their jaws are so powerful, like to just break a bone like that. Incredible. Anyway, it was all for a good cause in this case. Number 3, attitude is everything. So looking for behavioral changes in your camel. So this one may seem like an obvious one, but you'll be surprised how many camel owners don't pick up on the initial signs. There are always initial signs of unwellness, and it's often in the camel's behavior, in how they're behaving. Maybe you wonder why we harp on so much as to why it's so important to connect, bond, and build trust with your camel. There is a reason to the madness, because it not only matters to the training and handling, but you will be the first one to know if something isn't right with your camel, because you will know your camel. So behavioural signs could be isolation from paddock mates, won't come up for greetings if they normally do. They won't eat, that's an obvious one. The behavioural signs are just as diverse as each individual camel, but those are the 3 main points, especially the isolation from their paddock mates, because they are a herd animal. So I consider myself quite an intuitive person and a mother, so it can be easy for me to pick up on if something ain't right with the camel. After all, they are my babies. But if I don't know a camel too well and I'm distrusting my intuition at that time, I go for the camel's eyes. The camel's eyes will always tell. If something isn't right, there will be a dullness in their eyes and a sort of sorry look playing out, like, feel sorry for me, I'm so sick. But another, that and another way to tell is the camel's upper lip. If the camel's upper lip is slightly kissed looking and protruding from their upper plate, this is a telltale sign that they are in discomfort and further investigation needs to take place ASAP. That's the biggest clue for you there. There you go. I've just given you all the veterinary advice I don't know and I do know in the whole wide world. But the upper lip one, it never fails. Every time we see a camel with the upper lip protruded, we know something's up, and it's usually a stomach thing. So there you go, heads up. So before you go and rush out and take a look at your camel to check out the 3 signs to know if they are healthy or not, do you want to learn more about nutritional mineral requirements of your camel, 1 hump or 2? Because we've created an easy to read and easy to digest, because some of them are incredibly what the, guide to camel health. This is especially for you and your domesticated camels, because most of us don't live in the desert and nor do we really want to. So we'll give you really simple action steps that you can start to implement today to maintain your camel's good health. I guarantee you will learn something new. So go and get it over at thecamelshop.com.au and you'll see it under Camel Husbandry ebook. That's the one. So check it out at camelshop.com.au. Thanks for listening again, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Hey, did you get value from this or have any questions for us? Head over to our Australian Camels blog to ask your questions or to leave a comment. While you're there, sign up to our email list so you never miss these types of videos, other camel-related blogs, and also special announcements and information which we don't share anywhere else. Once you've signed up, you'll get access to our free camel training videos, information ebooks, and MP3s. So head over to australiancamels.com now to get your goodies.